War begins in the minds of men. UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, Cultural Organization, Constitution Preamble. War, as we see it today, requires the support, the participation of those who live in a society, a civilization that has told them that killing is bad, that views the taking of another life as reprehensible, as the epitome of moral prohibition. So how do we take the same group of people and convince them that taking another life is okay, that it is good? How do you basically have them forego everything they've ever been taught? How do you get them to murder, to kill in cold blood? Number one, you tell them the people they're killing are not people, and therefore every action they take is okay. You dehumanize the enemy. You justify cruelty.
Professor, what is dehumanization?
You weren't paying attention to class, were you? And your grades reflect that, okay? Honestly, as I was researching the definition of dehumanization and just doing everything, I honestly went down a really deep rabbit hole, and I was just going through everything. Everything I show will be linked in the description. I really recommend, if you want to learn more about this, you read the Stanford research paper about dehumanization, the definition of it all, which I have linked. There are multiple debates on dehumanization in general and just how to define it, right? One side basically is it's the way that you think of someone that defines dehumanization. You think of someone as non-human, they then therefore become non-human. The other side is no. The way you treat someone is how you dehumanize someone. You treat someone as if they are not human, and then therefore you are dehumanizing them, right? The explorers are guys, you're both right, calm down, right? They adopt a pluralistic view of dehumanization. That is to say, a view that combines elements of both the psychological approach and the harm-based approach, right? There are different levels of dehumanization, right? There's behavioral dehumanization, there's rhetoric dehumanization, there's cognitive dehumanization, and the way someone treats someone, the way someone thinks about someone, all of that plays on these different levels, right?
Paradox, though, in order for the perpetrators to dehumanize them in the first place, wouldn't they have to see them as human? What makes them talk and walk and see the same things we all do, but then change and decide that what they're seeing isn't what they should be believing? They might be different, but humans are so distinctive that it would be so hard to separate humanity from the image you're trying to paint. You know what I mean? I don't understand how you can just see a person and not see a person. That doesn't really make much sense to me.
That's actually a really good question. And yep, dehumanizers commonly have conflicting thoughts about their victims, right? Because this is then sorts of cases that generate this paradox. I want to say that I'm going to pronounce his name wrong. Krufner's account, he said he could describe this best that even if a perpetrator thinks of a victim as human, and all through senses sees that, hey, I see them as human, I think of them as human, so long as they subject them to the relevant source of harm that would count under the effects of dehumanization, they would still count on the behavioral level, right? Because you're behaving toward them in a way that is dehumanizing. So even if there's the wishy-washy, the nuances of it all, it comes down to this person is not human. The way you think about them, the way you treat them, it all bundles up into this, right? And that's why pluralists are kind of here, and they kind of solve it best, saying basically that there's nuance to this, that the way in which we kind of dehumanize someone isn't going to be a one-size-fits-all.
But why does dehumanization occur in the first place?
This was also pretty contested toward them, but the most common theory, the most common thought of hey, why do we even do this in the first place, is that in order to get past the barrier to cause violence, especially on a large scale, we're talking mass shootings, serial killers, war, you're gonna have to kind of go over this impasse of how do I kill a person, how do I kill multiple people, how do I take a life? It's once again, we live in a society that has really pushed upon us the fact that murder is bad, right? In order to get past this, you kind of have to do a couple things, and it's gonna depend on the person, it's gonna depend on their upgrades, it's gonna depend on a lot of things. But one way in order to get past this is gonna be dehumanizing someone, right? Because by harboring sometimes I cannot speak. By Harboring dehumanizing thoughts, dehumanizers are not just able to override inhibitions against committing extreme violence in the future, it also enables them to rationalize and cope with the act of extreme violence, right? Because you murder someone, you've done the act, you've killed them, and now you have to grapple with the fact you've taken another life. You've dealt the blow, and now this person would never walk upon this earth as they are ever again. How do you deal with that? You go inside your head and you're like, well, they weren't human, they weren't like me, this, that, and eventually the guilt goes away. Eventually you have the feeling that actually what I did wasn't that bad. I haven't taken away something from someone because they're not someone. Some of the theorists also argue that the functions of dehumanizing go beyond just like facilitating hostile acts. Like for instance, one idea is that people dehumanize outgroup members in order to cope with their own morality. Moral. In order to cope with their own mortality, right? Because in a way, like I kind of want to push this to slavery in terms of you want to feel the power over someone else's life, but you don't want to have the guilt that comes with it. You want to be able to deal with the fact that one day you will die, but here and now you hold all the power, right? And you hold power over a being that, once again, we're gonna shift back a bit into the definition of dehumanizing, into a being that should be like you, but is not, because you have taken away anything that makes them human. You have treated them as an object. You have thought of them as an object. You hold all this power over them. And it is one thing to hold a power over an animal, over a thing. It's another thing to hold a power over a sentient being like a human. And then to justify it by saying, oh, you know, like I helped them, I made them better, it might even refer to us as it. You'll come up and you'll be like, oh, well, you know, I made slaves' lives better. Like without me, they would have been worse off. Without me, they wouldn't be where they are now. I helped them do what they want, and they should be grateful to me. But in doing so, you took away their free will, their autonomy. What is freedom? What is a better life if you have no choice in doing anything on your lonesome? Would I not have rather has suffered, and it have been by my own choice, and have suffered, and it have been by your own hand? Like, what's the thought process here? And there's another idea which also kind of played into how this video even started, and in my head it really just the war in Iran, the way we're talking about it, just everything, which I'll go into later on in the video. But like another idea is that we dehumanize people in order to minimize the emotional cost of empathizing with them, even in contexts in which we are helping them, right? Like this kind of comes into like a lot of people dehumanize in a way children and in a way old people, in the way you don't view them as human because you believe their cognitive abilities have either regressed or haven't come up to a point in which you would view them as a fully capable functioning human being, or as human in general. So you view them as objects, or you view them as this thing that maybe deserves pity but that doesn't deserve your respect, or doesn't deserve the same attention you would give to another human being of which you would see in your same level. Right, and this is kind of more wishy-washy, and is, I want to say, a very big function of just so many civilizations around the world in history, and the way in which we view children, it's very dehumanizing at times. Just also kind of went into like how like thinking derogatory thoughts and using derogatory language also then leads to dehumanizing thoughts and dehumanizing language. Because it's like, okay, you think of someone as an object. You begin to think they're an object. You're dehumanizing them. You think of someone, a being, as an ape. To believe they're an ape. Eventually, you basically have started the process. The second you've started to begin seeing people as something other than what they are, which is just another human being. Right? Which is why when people were saying things like, well, why can't I say, or why can't I call them this, or why can't I just do that? It's just a word. It's just a word. Words have meaning. They have consequences. And eventually, things always get worse. So when you're out here saying things like, oh, I was just saying this, I was just saying that. Okay, you were just saying this and that. Now, what about in 5 years, in 10 years? What about tomorrow when you've escalated from calling someone an ape to saying they don't deserve human rights because they're an ape. It's far-fetched for you to believe that you can one day go from just calling someone an ape to believing they actually are an ape. Not that far-fetched. Fourth wall break. Looking into like the psychology and sociology of this all was really interesting. I'd really recommend you guys also do some more research on that. Part 2, the U.S.A. Okay, birthplace, where my thought process was when making this video, because truly, as I was just seeing videos of bombs being fucking dropped and people literally murdered before my eyes, and then some of the comments were just memes, just some, oh well, I guess gas prices are going up. I was like, sometimes I would just be doing something and I would just sit and I have to think and I have to be like, why is this happening? Why did we just both see a video of people fucking dying and your first thing is to think, oh, I guess gas prices are going up. Oh, I think my prediction on Polymarket, I think I just got $1,000. Why is that your first fucking thought when someone just died, right? And then I was just like, would this be the same if it was someone right next to you, if it was your neighbor, if it was in the same country as you? So that rabbit hole was deep. So that's where we're at now. Seeing just the tweets and the videos and the TikToks, just people not caring about human lives really just made me question everything I know, because it was really, I feel like we're missing the point when it comes to just fighting against the government, fighting against the institution. The institution has dehumanized people throughout the entirety it has been here. Okay, why do we keep letting it do it? Why do we sit here and contribute more? Because at the end of the day, there's just been so much rhetoric, so much misinformation, so much dehumanizing of people in the Middle East that people do not care if someone in the Middle East is dying, if another country is being bombed, if another school is being shut down. We have been, like, I grew up in the midst of this, right? 9/11, 2001, I was born in 2005. Most of Gen Z has grown up in just this environment of Middle East is bad, Middle East is bad, Middle East is bad, all these people are terrorists, all these people are terrorists. Eventually it's come to this point where people are brainwashed, people are indoctrinated into just believing that people in the Middle East dying is just an everyday thing, and that just shit just happens, right? Like, it's like there comes a point where you're just like, human lives don't matter anymore, and that's exactly what the government wanted. That's exactly what they got, and people just don't care for the lives in the Middle East, right? Because it's like you tell them a school has been bombed, and they're like, oh, that just had to happen. Now, well, you know, someone just had to take them. You know when the last battle we had on American soil was? It was in Alaska in World War II. And before that, the last war is the Civil War. It's then that you kind of have to think, you have to make the connection of, okay, we are so far removed from just this fear of seeing a battle on your homeland that it has really desensitized us to it all, right? Because it's one thing to see everything through a screen, to have even just first-hand accounts of what happened. It's another to see the school you've been going to since elementary school get blown up. It's another thing to leave your child at home one day and come back to it being rubble because it's been scorched off the face of the earth, right? Because you get first-hand accounts of it, you see things on a screen, but to have it happen to you, totally different ballpark. To have that threat hanging over you over and over and over again, to know one day you might wake up and everything around you is rubble, is gone, that's a whole different ballpark, right? America's reaction to war would be different if it was happening on American soil. If instead of schools being bombed in Iran, it was a school being bombed in San Francisco, in New York, in some city they actually cared about, if it was something that personally would affect them, that's when they would start caring. Because that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing people who voted for Trump 3 times come out and be like, I don't like Trump anymore because why is he getting us involved in this war in Iran? Why is he causing gas prices to rise? Now that it's personally affected their lives, suddenly they care. And that is what it's gonna take for people to start caring about war, about human lives, the same way in which they should be caring about it. Because a human life to them doesn't matter unless it's happening to someone around them, to them. That is what it's come down to. That is how sensitized we are to violence, to war. All these mass shootings we have, you're probably just like, oh, you know what, we have mass shootings, that's people getting murdered, that's people getting killed. Like, we still have that, like, we still see people dying about that. It truly is totally different than having war and having battle and having that threat looming over you over and over again, and knowing one day a missile might just blow you up, blow your family, blow your friends up, and everybody you ever even known in your hometown is gone. Everything you've ever known is gone. It's rubble. It is a totally different thing to think about. And we honestly just have no experience with it, because for 250 years the American Empire has been on top. They rose to the top. It was more 20th century that they really got there. But you get the meaning of, hey, like, it's been so long, we are so far removed from this. Like, we truly do just have an aversion to reality, because it's something you really, I guess, have to experience, because we lack a certain amount of empathy that's also needed to see this. I don't know if it's the lead poisoning. I don't know if it's just the way in which the society has brought us up to it. Children who have never known peace and children who have only known war have 2 different sets of ideals, okay, of values. Those who stand at the top determine what's right and what's wrong. Justice will prevail, you say. Of course they will. Those who win the war become justice. Doflamingo. And America has been winning the war for 250 years.
So what happens when America loses?
I guess justice will finally change. Let's back up a bit. Okay, so post Cold War, we have people in America who were pretty content with what they had. Like, it was a pretty nice time in America in the 20th centuries, past, Cold War and shit like that. People even began questioning whether we still even need the CIA. They were out here like, I mean, shit's pretty safe. Do we even need this totally covert agency that's causing atrocities all over the world? I don't think we really need it anymore. And the government at the time was also trying to move into the Middle East, right? They're trying to promote American democracy and prevent, like, the Middle East from ever becoming a threat, right? And they did believe the Middle East would eventually become a threat, and they so did not have oil in the Middle East at the time or anything. No, it was just because they were like, yeah, I mean, a lot of these countries could eventually become a threat to us, right? But the public sentiment was against war. They did not want war. Multiple times the government had gone to war and the public did not want it. That's what the 20th century is ripe with. But they're like, we do not want another war. We do not want to send our brothers, our husbands, our sons to die. Literally leave us out of it, okay? There was just little to no movement for an actual war. In Iraq, anywhere in the Middle East, people did not want a war, okay?
So what happened?
9/11 happens. 9/11 happened. Very conveniently, the American government gets the war they wanted, and they get to call it the War on Terror. How nice. How nice that they get the war they want. And suddenly, terror equals Muslim, and Muslims weren't people. They were the very embodiment of a concept. And concepts can be molded, they can be shaped, and they can become whatever you want it to be. A human can be scary. A concept, though, that's larger than life. Do you know what it feels like to have people look at you, and instead of seeing a person, they see whatever has been told to them? What has been pounded and impounded to them through the media, through the government, through just people telling them over and over again, these people are bad, these people are bad, these people are apes, these people are monkeys, these people are terrorists, every single thing throughout their life has told them that you are a bad person. It doesn't matter what you do, you will always be a bad person in their lives. The FBI defines international terrorism as the violent criminal acts committed by individuals and or groups who are inspired by or associated with designated foreign terrorist organizations of nations. Okay, state-sponsored. Domestic terrorism. The violent criminal acts committed by individuals and or groups to further ideological groups stemming from domestic influences, such as those with political, religious, social, racial, or environmental nature. Okay, Americans, though, subconsciously not, through the behest of the American government, entwined terrorism with the word Muslim, with the word Arab, and it's all under this just one umbrella. That when you say the word terrorism, first thing that pops into a lot of people's mind is Muslim. It's Arab. It's this ideal is pushed post 9/11 that became just so scary, so dangerous for any Muslim, for any Arab living in America. And the American government made it so they could have their war, so they could have their oil, so they could have what they wanted. And they don't care if people are hurt in doing so. What they want, they get by any means so. Right? And that's how dehumanization exists. That's what the forefathers used to justify slavery, and that's what the American government uses today to push their agenda. Like even post like 9/11, you have Hollywood intensifying the production of several films dealing with terrorism issues linked to like radical jihadist groups in the Middle East. They just start pushing all these films. Action is disengaged from moral self-control in 4 ways. Okay, you morally justify the act, you diminish responsibility, you minimize consequences, and then you dehumanize or blame the victim. When you morally justify the thing, you basically serve the greater good. Right? You have this attitude of we gotta protect values, we gotta preserve world peace, gotta save humanity, gotta embody nationalistic ideals, right? Because in America, we must push democracy, or else fascism will rise around the world. Bad people will take the spots, and one day they might try to rise up and kill everyone else that they disagree with. And if the rest of the world falls into this fascist regime, what will happen? They'll pose a big threat, the world might end, and therefore it is America's duty to protect world peace by ensuring nobody falls down the bad path. And what is that bad path? America wins the war, America decides that. Now you diminish responsibility, right? Soldiers are just following orders, and so many soldiers are following this order that eventually the burden is lessened because there's so many people sharing the burden. You cannot go against the entire American government when you are flying solo, right? The entire government is responsible for so many atrocities. Who are you going after first? How are you doing it? The responsibility is just so watered down, so diminished through the ranks, through the lines, that eventually you're just like, I want to go all the way up to the top, but the top is so well protected because they know you will go up for the top that you're like, oh my god, what do I do? And that's what makes things so complicated. And you minimize consequences. Whereas a couple years in prison for acts against humanity, for destroying people's lives. Reparations will never give back the lives taken and the lives destroyed. And then you blame the victim. If the victim is to blame, your actions were justified. You dehumanize the victim. Nothing morally reprehensible is done. If it's not a human, if it's not even something you should care about, by doing that, you absolve yourself from any guilt, you absolve yourself from any responsibility. You're just like, I didn't do anything bad. If I did do anything bad, it doesn't matter because that person doesn't matter. I don't know who you think you're fooling. I don't know how you yourself believe all this, but Black people are apes, the Japanese are monkeys, Arabs are terror. These have all been used during the U.S.'s time in order to dehumanize the enemy, in order to push their own agenda. It's one thing to kill a human. It's another thing to kill an animal, a concept. Okay?
So how does the government manage to do this, especially on such like a large scale?
Well, they have like many tools at their disposal, and the media has become a very, very powerful tool in their arsenal. Okay? Like the government and Hollywood are linked, they're entwined, besties, right? Even before 9/11, the government worked hand in hand with Hollywood to push stereotypes, to certain agendas, ensure that the rhetoric they wanted was what was being pushed toward them, right? Like at one point we had like a borough of motion pictures. That shit didn't last long, but it kind of goes to show like even the government at the time was like, hey, like this shit could be pretty useful, and they have utilized it now, just maybe in more covert ways than just having a motion of borough pictures. That's a bit too much communist. That's a bit too much propaganda in the face of the American people for them. They like to do things a bit more covert, a bit more, we'll partner with the CIA we won't just tell you guys we're partnering with the CIA to make this movie. The American film industry is the biggest in the world. Okay, it literally makes more money than some countries' like entire budgets, right? And with that much, and with that much power comes great influence. They have to push a rhetoric that places like Russia, China, North Korea are rife with propaganda, and that their government likes to sway the public. And they're not wrong. The governments 1,000% do, but so do they. Okay, trust no government, trust no man, trust that they are, however, trying to make you trust that. Okay, post 9/11, you have the CIA partnering with Hollywood to make movies that depicted Muslims and Arabs exactly as they wanted. They made it black and white. They created a clear good guy and a good bad guy. Heck, Iron Man 1 even has the shit. Arabs are bad, we are good. We are trying to push our good onto them. If a couple people have to die and people's lives have to be destroyed to do so, it's okay. It's for the greater good. And they also get to use the media to push for public support, to push people for recruitment. If I see another TikTok video trying to be like, join the U.S. Army, die for a war we don't need, the fuck out of my, you got Gen Z fucked up, bro. Now, I do want to just have a little snippet. You did miss class, so I don't know if you were here for this little part, but I do want to say, don't let the rest of the world fool you into believing that they don't pull this shit too. Okay, European powers, as they colonized, enslaved, and exterminated other groups, like I have had many of arguments with Europeans about this shit, and I honestly don't understand why we're arguing history like it's not there. Like, once again, history written by the victors, but my guys, you guys were the victors. You could do during the colonization of Ireland by the English, it was what, 17th century, the Irish were regularly depicted in newspapers as culturally inferior, as irrational and prone to violence, a dehumanizing stereotype that was popularized through the Irish joke, right? We have Aboriginals, we have Native Americans, we have Africans who were depicted as infantile savages to be variously disposed of, enslaved, or adopted as the white man's burden. Like, this shit happened through many continents, time and time again. That is the fact that countries did this. Let's not try to rewrite history. Y'all pull this shit. This shit continues to be pulled. So now we're at current events. We're at today. You get a little extra. We're at today. What even brought me to want to tell this lesson to the class? What even had my thoughts going? The war in Iran with Israel and the U.S. U.S. stays on Israel's dick, by the way, teaming up once again to do shit they have no business doing. We have Cuba without power because Trump is out here saying shit like, I'm gonna take Cuba. Genuinely, many parts of Africa are corrupt. That is trust. I know. Okay, we get that. But they stay corrupt because colonial powers benefit from every country in Africa staying just as they are. We can exploit them if they realize how much resources they have, if they rise up and try to do better. People are always saying, like, why do we even donate to Africa? Why do we do that? Guys, you're asking us the wrong questions. The government, why do you think they do anything? It is to benefit them, they and themselves alone. Trust that if they're doing anything, even giving aid, it's because they know they're not helping anything. They're just perpetuating the cycle of violence that keeps going on and on. And don't let any competent person ever try to run for government or even get any sort of power, because they will be shot and killed down. I don't want to hear, no, this conspiracy theorist, that conspiracy theorist. After the Epstein files, y'all should trust that some conspiracy theories are just facts that no one likes to speak about. Okay. People were placing live bets on Polymarket. They are still to this day, March 18th, mind you, threatening people who submit reports that don't go their way. Like, what was his name? Fernando or something F, whatever. He made a report that was like, oh, there's this unexploded missile like right here in the city. And people on Polymarket were going after him being like, change the report to say that there is no missile there. Change the report. I'm set to lose, like, blah blah blah. And Polymarket had to like pause the bets and like ban the accounts And that was like $22 million up in the air, being like, oh my god, who gets it? Oh my god, we're betting on people dying or not, and you care about your money? Like truly, you are placing bets on who is getting fucking missile strike next? Are you okay? Are you okay? I truly have no words to describe how I'm feeling towards you, because you are betting on human lives. You are betting on human lives. You are betting on human lives. Mind you, this is the type of same people who go to church every Sunday. Your God is looking down on you, whatever God you believe in disgust. I just watched an apartment building get blown up in Iran, and people were like, this is AI. There are multiple different point of views from different angles. This is AI. This isn't real. Now we got people saying fucking the videos aren't real. Truly, just all of this was going on. I was like, I really want to look into why some people just have this laissez-faire attitude about human lives being lost, about people dying. Truly, what is wrong with some people? Like, it was crazy, and that's why your class got a nice little special.
Okay, but what can I do about it? How can I even help when I have to worry about how much my rent is gonna cost this month?
So the point of it all, the government doesn't care about us. They care about themselves, and they care about the billionaires lining their pockets, right? They keep us hungry, they keep us poor, and in doing so, they keep us silent. If none of your needs are met, you don't have the time to worry about the needs of others. You don't have the time to beat the system that put you in this precarious position in the first place. You do have the time to hate on other people who have nothing to do with it, because the government has told you that they're the reason why. Even though, once again, like, are we in the same? Are we living the same life? Are we seeing the same things? How is, like, I don't want to go into this. Truly, when we're all supposed to be coming together, they're dividing us because they know we're stronger together fighting them than we ever could be fighting each other. Solution here. We come together. I swear this is like, oh my god, but like, how do we come together? We need plans. There are people a lot smarter than me with a big bitter brains that have really good solutions to this, that a lot of people are gonna start following real soon, because shit's about to get real fucking tough. Okay, because we have college seniors out here who had to drop what they were gonna do, going to med school because of the Big Beautiful Bill, because of not knowing how they're gonna afford to do shit anymore. We have the American dollar being contested as the world's reserve currency for the first time since it was appointed. We have China ready and willing to swoop in and become the backer needs. And if that happens, if the American dollar loses its capabilities, if we come down and we're like, oh my god, we're $40 trillion in debt, we have no money, we can't pay off the interest, we can't do shit, and the American empire starts to fall, you best believe people are gonna start radicalizing. We've already seen a lot of people aren't gonna stand up until a person starts to personally affect them. People were out here saying they would have a few times, and now that they're only realizing that shit's gonna get down. Honestly, there comes a point where I'm like, y'all are wrong for that, but shit's gonna get tough when we need all the people we can get. Because once it starts to get to the point where you have no hope for your future, when even the temporarily embarrassed millionaires and the temporarily embarrassed billionaires start to realize, hey, I actually don't have any path forward to becoming what I want to be, because it has all been blocked off by the people I want to become. That's when, even when those people on the outer judges start to realize shit's getting tough, shit's getting bad. Yeah, radicalization is gonna be the least of their problems. You take people's hope away, they have nothing left to lose. Truly, a lot of the things stopping people is the fact that they don't want to put their future in jeopardy. They don't want to, do something that leaves them in jail, or that causes them to miss out on the future that they really want. But if you take away that future and any possibility of ever having a trust all holds barred, you're gonna have a lot more people fighting against you than you will joining you.
And that is all to say that as we are, the government and our society has facilitated in making us this way, but it is our job to determine what we do from now on. The process of becoming will be anything but straight and narrow. It will be harrowing, it will be jagged, and life as we know it will change. We cannot go as we have been, not if we want to survive. If one human life does not matter, no human life matters. That is what has been shown to us today. Those in power would have us believe everything will be alright, that our current predicaments we find ourselves in will eventually end. They would have us settle. We have settled each and every time, and that is what has led us here today. Change is coming, and those who would have us believe some of us are inconsequential, unimportant, trivial, that cruelty wrapped in martyrdom is a price we must pay for democracy will not be the ones in charge to see it. They have perfected the art of justifying cruelty, will perfect the action of dismantling it.